The Archon Philosopher, talking philosophy to the philosopher in all of us. I hope this new mic will work out well. Let me know. Anyway, the topic for today is metaphysical synthesia, or how aliens, Archons, think. And what we're talking about here is cognitive structures. And we all have cognitive structures in our brain, and people are doing great work on this to decide which part of the brain is doing what, and all of this is very good. But what we have is an extremely complex system with, trillions of neural connections that allow consciousness and eventually arising to the level of sentience. And what we're talking about is how non-human sentient creatures may think. And let's take a look at this. Let's look at synthesia first of all. And synthesia is a pretty well-known condition where a person experiences one sense in terms of another. That is, one smells what one sees, or one hears what one tastes, and things like this, that the senses become in some way confused or overlapping. And this may be due to the structure of where the senses are located in the brain, but ultimately it has to do with our processing of the world. And this is an interesting thing to have, if you ever have it, I guess. But the metaphysical aspect here is due to the laws of physical nature. This is the field of experience in this diagram here. And surrounding the field of experience and interpenetrating it are the laws of physical nature, those things that we have to have in order to have this universe. And we see causality and entanglement, time, consciousness, the translation of genotype to phenotype, and all of these metaphysical structures, the laws of physical nature, provide us this field of experience. And what we're talking about is that we have brains that interpret these laws, and thus we give them these names in English and other names in different languages. And different cognitive structures may divide them up differently, and different sentient creatures, non-human sentient creatures, may have different cognitive structures that in align with different sense organs may allow them to understand the world and experience the world in very, very different ways. So we have this guy here, Immanuel Kant. He was a philosopher of the 18th century, and he had ideas of the categories of thought. And this means that we can only think about the world in the ways that our brain allows us to think. So he put down three: time, causality, spatiality, that everything that we interpret has to fall into these categories of thought. And so the alignment of the laws of nature, as he called them, and the categories of thought allow us our experience of the world. So we are looking here at a way to understand how non-human sentient creatures may perceive the world. And one way to look at this is through the lens of metaphysical synthesia. So we experience time in one way. We have a sense of time. We know when we're 15 seconds late or 15 minutes late, and we have this sense. But let's say that instead of having this sense in this way, this is how we experience space. So we experience space in the way that we experience time instead. So there's a synthesia. So if we ever were to meet a non-human sentient creature, they may experience time in a very different way. They may have sense organs, for example, that allow sensing entanglement. And entanglement is something I don't think humans experience at all. I don't think we experience it. But say you had a sense organ to see entangled particles or entangled features. The only way we can really see it is through Polaroid lenses. When you match them up, we see and can clearly see that something is happening. But say that the whole world was like this, and you could see these connections, and this would in some way provide them with a different manner of looking at the world. I think one avenue, that entanglement, if you could see it, if you could sense it in some way, just like we sense space or electromagnetism. See, our eyes are tuned to electromagnetism. We're pretty good with sight, but say that they are blind. This non-human sentient creature is blind, this whole species, but they can see entanglement. What would they see? What would the world be like for them? And they would be able to see connections that we just can't see, and so on and so on. Their brains would then develop structures to think about this and to process this type of information. So what we're doing in trying to translate from, the lowest level would be language. We can get to a language, but then the experience may be radically different. And as I've said before, whatever their cognitive structures are and allow, humans have one that allows us our experience. We have the five senses, but we also have different senses: sense of hunger, sense of time, sense of spatial location, kinesthetics, and others. And so we have certain powers that they don't have, and we have certain ways of looking at the universe that they don't have. However, what's going to be key in this is that however they look at the metaphysical structure, the laws of physical nature, however they put it into language, however they sense it, however they have cognitive structures to deal with it and understand it, they have to conform to ours, and we have to conform to theirs. So that it's if one of them is sitting next to us, they have a physical form because they have to have a physical form in this universe to have sentience. So if they have a physical form, in an extreme sense, you could pull out a gun and shoot them and injure them or kill them, because they have to have a physical form in conformity to our understanding of the laws of physical nature. And so, as I put out in the direction one, the demiurge may have collapsed the originary universal wave function, and thus be the only one to have a way of looking at this universe. When there is another sentient creature introduced into the universe, now we have two, and each of these ways of looking at the universe is now equal. It's like the parents may have one way of looking at the world, but their children have a different way, and each of them is now equal. So what we're looking at is maybe an initial representation, but for each species there is now a presentation of the universe, and not any representation of something objective. It may have been a representation of the originary collapse, and that species, the demiurgic species, that collapsed it. But subsequent, once we have a number of them, a number of sentient creatures, sentient species, each of their views on the laws of physical nature and how this universe is organized, each of them become equal and powerful and weak in their own ways. And so if the time comes that these entities, these sentient creatures and sentient species disclose themselves, it will be something to attempt to deal with how to communicate with them, because they have different ways, and we conform to their ways, and they may see stuff we just don't see. Anyway, this is an introduction to metaphysical Synthesia, and there is some stuff online. Some people can see time, so if you look up time Synthesia or something like that, you'll be able to find some stuff. And different humans even have different senses, so we have some experience here on Earth with metaphysical Synthesia to some extent. But in dealing with non-human sentient creatures, we are dealing with a vastly different comparison. Anyway, I hope this was informative. Let me know. And as always, please do like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next time.